In last week's episode, part one of Losing Me, I revealed my 2-year long battle with anxiety, an anxiety disorder that began after suffering from vestibular neuritis in early July 2019. Two dizzying attacks, severe dizziness attacks that occurred at 6 o'clock one Sunday evening out of the blue, and then after 10 o'clock that same evening. At the time I was 3 weeks away from running or attempting to run a Boston qualifier at the M7 marathon, and instead my life changed, and the marathon was put on the back burner. I wasn't running. I had dizziness to contend with, which started over the next couple of weeks, but then the head games or the mind games began, and the doubt, the fears of having a heart attack, that sort of took control of my life, really. It sort of started to climax on the 27th of July, where I was actually spent 3 to 4 hours in hospital being monitored after having chest pains and arm pains and pains all over. Basically, it came back clear. My blood tests were clear, and it was turning out that I had developed an anxiety disorder. And following that, I ran City Surf on the second Sunday in August. It was my most satisfying crossing of a finish line after the previous month's battle since the vestibular neuritis, to get myself across that finish line after running the 14 Ks. And then a week later, this was a journal entry which I concluded last week's episode with. Monday the 19th of August 2019, day one of the long road back. After spectating yesterday's Mudgee Running Festival, my running calendar slate is clean. I have no major event or deadline on the horizon. The Boston Qualifier Marathon has been and gone. City Surf was last weekend, and the Mudgee Half, which I ended up spectating at, was yesterday. What it does for me, I guess, is gives me maybe closure or a closed door on what events I've been aiming for. This means I can start from scratch, perhaps the very beginning. No need to jump in halfway into a program or to try to catch up on one. A clean canvas, so to speak. I decided yesterday with the Bathurst Edgell Jog, 7.5 kilometre race, 5 weeks away, a realistic goal for me is to have my weekly long run up to 10 kilometres by then. It's simple, it's realistic, it's a beginning. Today, day one, I did an arms throw weight session, overhand chin-up dips and plyo push-ups. A long way short of where I was, but a session completed, and it felt good. Tonight, an indoor 5K and beyond class with Tom. Tough, physically and mentally. My head didn't feel 100%, but I pushed not knowing how much was actually in my head. I got there and discovered that little bit inside of me that is competitive. It is still there, deep, but lost. But signs that it's still there. All part of the journey, and today was the first step to re-finding me. The old me, day one complete. So welcome everyone to the second part of my podcast. It's episode number 5 with Running with Heart podcast. And last week it was titled Losing Me, part 1. And in the concluding part, it's Finding Me. And when I say concluding, the journey's not concluded. The anxiety battle is not concluded. It's still real. It's still ongoing, and it's still a battle. But boy, I've come a long way. And last week, I was nervous before the podcast, nervous about sharing what I've been through over the last 2 years, the battle I've been facing mentally, my mental health. And it's the first time I've publicly spoken about it. Only those closest to me know what I've gone through. But yeah, I was really nervous going into last week's podcast, taking that step in sharing it and talking about it. This week, however, I'm actually excited, really excited, and I almost feel like it's a celebration this evening as I do this podcast, because through rereading my running journals, particularly that 6 months after the vestibular neuritis and the development of the anxiety disorder, I'm reading them in preparation for today. I've realised just how far I've come in the journey, and I've probably never given myself credit for how far I've come as well. In that 6 months following the vestibular neuritis and the onset of the anxiety disorder, where I had the fear of suffering a heart attack, of dying. When I reread the 6 months, that 6 month period, I think, wow, I came a long way in 6 months. I now look at it again another 18 months on, and once more, I'm like, back in that 6 months, I hadn't progressed that much. Now I've progressed a lot. So it's an ongoing journey, and as I said, it's not finished. It's still there, the anxiety. I feel I'm dealing with it better. I'm handling it better, and I'm challenging myself, I guess, a bit more with the anxiety. Now, from that last entry that I read at the end of last week's episode, and in the introduction to today's, day one complete, ready to jump in, new beginning, so to speak, clean slate, clean canvas. It sounds like I'm ready. I'm ready just to put that month that has happened behind me, forget all about it, move on back to the old Andrew, so to speak. I thought it was that easy to leave it behind, and how wrong I was. It was far from easy, and really, when I look back at it, and as I discovered at the time, obviously too, it was just beginning the battle. The thought process, or the thought pathways in my mind had changed through the anxiety development. And once those new pathways are formed, they're like a new road put in. Once the road's put in, you can't just make that road disappear. Traffic starts going on that road. It's another option of travel, I guess you could say. It's like when you're going down the motorways and you've got these new roads coming off them, you go, we'll go that way, scenic route. That's the way the thought process worked for me. And so I developed new thoughts in my mind through the development of the anxiety. And it wasn't just a matter of closing those roads. The roads were there, they were open, there was traffic on them. And as I learned through my online anxiety course that I began, and books that I was reading, I guess, as well, it was how I dealt with the thoughts. And one of the best descriptions, or scenarios, I guess, that I read and learnt was from Max Lucado, a Christian author. And he talked about it, you being the air traffic controller of an airport. And so you're in control of the planes that are coming in and landing. And so you've got to do that with each of the thoughts that come into your mind. You decide which one you allow to land on the runway and which ones you go, keep going, keep circling, you're not landing here. So that was an interesting way to look at it, and one I did draw on it numerous times. And as I found out, it doesn't always work too, because your mind starts to question it. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at in this episode, as I said, last week titled Losing Me. This week it's Finding Me, as I start that journey of rediscovery. And as I just said, I thought it was going to be easy, just put it behind me, how wrong I was. So on the 25th of August, I did a 6 kilometre long run, and that was a big deal for me. Even though I'd been running leading into the vestibular neuritis in early July, I was running 37 Ks, 38 Ks. To suddenly run 6 kilometres as a long run following that month, that was a big deal for me. And so I was really happy with that. And then I'm going to read from my journal from the 28th of August, 2019. It's a Wednesday. This is from my journal of personal worship. I woke up in the morning feeling under a cloud. I can't remember clearly the night, but I remember some moments, and I think it's from the night of the dreams, which I can't remember, that has me under the cloud. I feel down, depressed. I feel even burdened. There is some anxiety involved, but it's more than that. It's deeper. It's a darkness I feel enveloped in. The feeling throughout the morning didn't go away, and I continued to battle it in my mind. Certainly, it felt like Satan attacking. 2 clients actually asked if I was okay, as I seemed either quiet or unhappy. I was home for lunch. The feeling didn't leave me. I knew I needed a run, but I didn't have the energy, both physically and mentally, to put into it. I talked to Monique about it in the evening. Do I need to be on medication, or can I just run every day for my medication? 20 minutes minimum. I prefer that option. I know it will pick me up. It's my goal. 20 minutes at least of running a day. So I set that goal on the 28th of August. 20-minute run each day as a minimum was going to be my medication. And I again would soon discover it was harder than I thought it would be, just to get myself out the door on my own. I was afraid of what would happen to me out there running on my own. Was I going to have a heart attack? Was I going to collapse? What was going to happen to me if I was out there on my own running? I also went through that period between the 24th of July and the 16th of August, where if you look at the Running with Heart Instagram account, it stopped completely. There were no posts, and I couldn't bring myself to post anything, one, to do with Running with Heart, to do with the Heart Foundation, to do with heart attack, heart health, heart disease. They were all triggers for me. Just to type them, put the thought in my head, am I going to suffer a heart attack? Is it going to happen to me? And so for 3 to 4 week period, there's just nothing on my Running with Heart Instagram page, which is quite sad, but it's, again, something I did to deal with it. On Friday the 30th, after that tough day, I did a 7 kilometre long run. So still on track to achieve that 10 kilometre long run by the Agile Jog. Then on the 1st of September, 1st of September was Father's Day, and as a family we went out to Evans Crown Reserve to do bushwalk there, and it was one I'd done just after the Vestibular Neuritis with my eldest son, and wanted to take the whole family there for it. And my journal entry from that day reads, "Not as relaxing as I thought it would be. Anxiety attacks. I think it's because it's been 2 weeks since my sinusitis, and the dizziness, vestibular neuritis, originally hit 2 weeks after being sick. That had been in my mind all week." And so then I've written the day after that, after Father's Day, on Monday the 2nd of September, "After yesterday's anxiety, I know I must run every day. I was going to run yesterday, but I thought the bushwalk would be enough. Wrong. Running is my medicine. Do I run 7 days a week? Do I do a streak? Or do I still rest on Saturdays? Streaks don't do much for me. I don't know if it would be enough to get me out the door on a bad day. Do I need a goal race? Am I ready for that? Probably not. But would it be enough to get me out the door? Maybe. How about running for my mental health?" That's in capital letters. "That should be enough motivation." So then during that following week, so that's Monday the 2nd of September, that following week I had a mate call in to see me at the gym. He had no idea what I'd been through over the past, this stage we're coming up to 2 months. We hadn't seen each other or chatted for a while, so he just popped in for a catch up, and it was a big moment for me, a big turning point, or a step forward, I guess. After talking to him about what had happened and who I'd become, he actually, and how hard I was finding getting out the door to run, he actually suggested to me that I had to put something into the run to make it fun, to take that pressure off, to take the focus off the mental health and the thoughts that were in my mind. And he suggested that I do like a gimmick, I guess you could say, where I do a run and then I take a photo of something, put up on Instagram for people to look at, and whether they just follow what it is I've put out there or guessing where it is, whatever the little thing is. And so at the time I was in the process of changing the running group with Ant Fitness, my business. I was looking at changing its name to the Portland Hillbillies to give it more of an identity, a bit of a brand. And so talking with my mate, I decided that I would run with an Akubra hat, which would become the Hillbilly hat. And so if you actually look at the Instagram profiles of, at the time, Portland Hillbillies, which then became one with antfitness.au. But if you follow that feed of the Portland Hillbillies and antfitness.au, you'll see that around that time, I believe it's the 5th of September, the Adventures of the Hillbilly hat appeared for the first time on the Portland Hillbillies feed. And that Adventures of the Hillbilly hat was me getting out the door on my own every day to do a 20-minute run. And I've written that in my journal entry on the 5th of September. I started to run in my Akubra, the Portland Hillbillies hat. It's a way to get me out each day and to add something fun to the run. This follows renaming the group from the gym the Portland Hillbillies. So for what appeared to be just an Instagram feed, I guess, or a post from Ant Fitness and the Portland Hillbillies, yeah, it was a fun thing. But I guess behind it, the real reason, it was giving me a reason to get out the door, and I had to go running. And I'd run 10 minutes away from home, put the hat on a fence post or a branch or a post on the side of the road, take a photo, tag it, hashtag the adventures of the hillbilly hat, follow that if you wish, and run back home. And that was my 20 minutes. And then and next day I do the same thing, another run around town. And again, slowly, instead of doing 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back, I got further away from home slowly. Not far. Couldn't do it on my own yet. Could not do it on my own yet. But yeah, so it was a way of getting me out the door. We jump forward to the 14th now of September. Blackmore's Marathon is on tomorrow. Wish I was there. I really enjoyed last year. Best 35 kilometres running until I hit the wall. It should have been a PB day. Had planned to do it this year, but then the last few months have changed that. Boston Marathon entries opened on Monday. For the first time since I went dizzy and my opportunity to qualify faded, I allowed myself to think about it, about the dizziness, about missing the M7 Marathon. I still get uptight thinking about dizziness, qualifying and Boston, and I'm waiting for it to return, the dizziness that is, to hit me again. And that's what we were talking about when it struck. That's what we were talking about when it struck. So a step forward, I guess, that I'm allowing myself to think about it. I'm disappointed I'm not doing it. I love marathons. Should I just focus on marathons? Should I forget trails? Should I do the UTA, the 50k, the 100k? Should I stick to the roads? Should I stick to marathons? Boston. My head is going crazy, but at least I'm thinking about it. So, reflecting on the year before, how good it felt to run the Sydney Marathon, the Blackmore's Marathon, missing out on that year, and it really hits me as I reread these, like the line there, I'd planned to do it this year, but then the last few months have changed that. It was like when the vestibular neuritis happened. I remember it was 2, and it's easy to say now, but it was 2 by 60-second, not even that, dizzy spells. And it changed my life. From all the running I'd done before that, the preparation for a marathon that was 3 weeks away, I was entering a taper period, like I was at my peak for that marathon. Just from the 2 dizzy spells, changed my life completely. And everything went on hold. Everything just came to a grinding halt. And again, there's no reason, really, that I couldn't have been doing that Blackmore's Marathon. And I've written there, but the last few months have changed that. So the only thing that really changed in the last few months was what was happening inside my head and the anxiety. And I felt I had no control over that. So then we read the next day, Sunday the 15th of September. So this is the day of the Blackmore's running, Blackmore's Running Festival, the marathon. I did a 20-minute absorption run, 3.7 kilometres. Year before, I'd run 42 kilometres at Blackmore's, and I could have been there that day too. Felt great. Could have easily done a long run today of 60 minutes or more. It was a beautiful spring morning. I missed not doing Blackmore's. I missed the marathon. I missed the atmosphere. I thought afterwards we should have gone down to watch it. I continued pondering where to with my running. Do I progress or focus on ultras? I would like to do 100 kilometres one day. Do I hit the trails? Do I do UTA? That's Ultra Trail Australia, held at Katoomba every May. Entries open in 1.5 weeks. At UTA, would I do 11, 22, 50 or 100 Ks? Or am I still unfinished with the marathon? Or even just content with it? And of course there's 5K, 10K, half marathons. I love my Blackmore's Marathon finisher shirt. I love my New York Marathon shirt. On the back, it has the word marathoner. I feel that's me. I'm proud of it. And I looked up my past marathon times today. They're all a long way from a Boston qualifier. Maybe I put too much pressure on myself with a 12-month time frame chasing a Boston qualifier. The last two, though, aren't, I believe, a good indicator. They're the marathons I'm talking about. So Sydney in 2018 was 3 hours 48, and in 2019 Canberra was 3 hours 43. The last two, though, aren't, I believe, a good indicator. Both of them I failed miserably in the last 7 kilometres. and both of them lacked long runs in training in the 6 weeks prior. I need redemption, a chance of it. I can't walk away from the marathon with how I finished my last two, especially Canberra. I stood under a tree. I remember this one vividly. I stood under a tree just over a kilometre from the finish and considered quitting. I then walked it in to the finish line all the way. And you know what? I'm not ready to give up on Boston. It may take a year or 2 or 3 or 5, but I made a vow and I believe I'm good enough to qualify. I'm a marathoner. It's back to scratch from the beginning. I start at 10 kilometres and I work my way back up. When the time is right, in God's time, my chance will come. So again, you can feel that positivity coming in, the rising in my voice or in my writing. And that's how the journey went. And I guess in a sense it still goes. Probably more positive lately than back here. But particularly this 6-month period from July to the end of December 2019, where, it goes from positive. One day I'm going to do this. I'm going to chase these dreams, these goals. And then the next is like, bang, that's it. Tough day. And that's what followed just 3 days later. This is Wednesday the 18th of September. A tough day. I felt anxious all day. My chest is tight. Why? Is it because I've started thinking about Boston again? My head hasn't felt right the last 2 nights. Is it all in the head? I'm tired. Restless sleeps for 3 nights. Perhaps I should just run on the trails. I didn't feel like a run today, but I forced myself. 20 minutes of medicine. It wasn't overly enjoyable. My chest felt tight due to the anxiety. I found myself looking for that deep breath again. It feels like I've gone back 4 weeks. I ran the last kilometre on the Ridge Street Trail. That felt good. Do I need the trails? Should that be my focus? So, again, you can see 3 days earlier, I'm training for Boston. This is day 1 again. I'm starting now, and then 3 days later, it's a bad day, anxiety, chest tight, and I spiral downwards. The following morning, Thursday, the 19th of September, I did a 10.2 kilometre long run, goal achieved, achieving my 10k long run before the Edgell jog, which was on that weekend. I did it with my running buddy, Craig, who did it, the Big Red Run with me, and numerous marathons. And I've written on that day, this is interesting. I've got 10.2 kilometre long run, pace 5:30 per kilometre, my average heart rate 162 beats per minute, and then all these comments around it. I don't know if that's right. I did still feel anxious and spoke about my last 2.5 months, so maybe. It was great running with Craig again. I spoke of my mental health issues. Craig is keen to run with me when he can. My chest tightness is anxiety. If I take my mind off it, it's not there. So it's all about getting my mind off it. If I'm thinking about, is my chest tight? I feel it. And the next day, this is the same day, after that long run, I'm tired. A day full of battles with anxiety. I don't know why. Reliving the last 2 months though, reliving the last 2 months through talking to Craig this morning at the run maybe. The focus on the Heart Foundation maybe, because I talked about that as well. People talking about having heart attacks. Allowing myself to think about Boston. I don't know, it's frustrating, it's scary, and it's something I have to deal with. Last week was such a good week. This week is so different. But it took having someone there to run with me to get me to 10Ks. I couldn't have done it on my own. And then to show, again, just the day-to-day battle with anxiety, the following day, Friday the 20th. Today was a long, tiring day, travelling down to Sydney and back with Winston for the Catholic School Athletics. Left early, back late in the afternoon, and then straight to work, home by 8 p.m. It's almost the tightest I've ever been. Not helping the tiredness is a continued battle with anxiety and panic attacks. I'm not sure where the negative self-talk or approach to has come from over the last couple of days. I should be on top of the world after achieving the completion of a 10k long run. As Monique pointed out, it's not my job or worry to work out why or try to understand that side of it. I need to work out how I'm going to deal with it to reduce it. I had a panic attack at the athletics while just sitting there. I felt myself twitch, and that was enough to start the worry and the escalation from it. I even find myself dismissing my talk back to the anxiety now. So I'll have the thought, I'm having a heart attack, or I'm going to collapse. And I'll tell myself, you felt this before, nothing has ever happened. Then I say, but this might be the time. And that's it. My mind gives in. I have to work on my mental health battle and my mental strength. So it's just a constant battle. I remember like this whole period was so tiring. And again, you have the good days, you have the bad days, but it's just so tiring constantly. Fighting the thoughts in your mind and in your head. So then I ran the Edgell jog on the 22nd of September. I had anxiety before the race. Arms and armpits are hurting. Chest on top of that was tight at times. This stopped hurting at the start line. My stomach's aching. And so that continued. The race went really well though, and I ran well. Then we go on to where I went back to the doctors because it was getting too much for me, putting up with this all the time. And so on the 23rd of September, I believe it was, I went back. Very tired. I woke up feeling okay, but by mid-morning my chest, armpits and shoulders are hurting again. A killer of a headache from lunch that didn't go away until bed. Have to keep battling anxiety and panic attacks over the chest tightness that comes and goes, and the sore armpits, arms and shoulders. Very frustrating. I didn't feel like doing the Portland Hillbillies road run as head was hurting so much and the pain in the upper body, so I walked the majority of it. I felt okay when I did it, and it was a very comfortable 20-minute recovery run at lunch as well. So over the next few days where I should feel on top of the world, the previous week I'd done my 10K goal, running 10Ks for the first time since it all started. I ran the Edgell jog, did that really well, and raised money for the Heart Foundation in the process. But in those days following, I'm suffering pain in my armpits, my chest, my shoulders, constantly battling the thoughts, the mind, in my head. And so by the Wednesday, it's time to go back to the doctors. 25th of September, 2019. I returned to the doctors today to have chest and arms checked out as they are still sore and in different places at time. I saw a new doctor at the surgery. I thought he was good. He thought maybe I had inflammation of a rib cartilage, but ruled that out after testing it. Then talked about muscle strain and anxiety. I talked about the anxiety over the last week, since last Thursday. How it surprised me after completing a 10K run. How I still completed the Edgell jog on Sunday. This surprised the doctor. He suggested that we may need to set up a mental health plan and have me have a face-to-face consultation with a psychologist. Something more than the online anxiety course I've been doing. At the end of the consultation, he had me fill out a DAT-21 form, assessing my current state of depression, stress and anxiety. I did a quick add of the scores before I handed it in. My depression was normal, stress was mild, and my anxiety was severe. It surprised me. I know I've been battling it, but I wouldn't have thought it was severe. We will see where to from here. When I got home, I was going to go for a run. However, I thought I might garden instead. It relaxes me too, and a change in the routine would be good. However, I decided after lunch and gardening that if I didn't run today, my mind would see it as an avoidance due to anxiety. So I went out for a 20-minute run before having to rush back for the kids' class at the gym. It felt good getting the run in. And so that was with the doctor. And then on the 11th of October, actually we need the results first from the doctor. So I did a monitor session on the 27th of September, so that's only 2 days later. This felt so good, a big step forward. Again, another big step forward. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back is how the journey has gone. I think I went out to prove something to myself, that I'm okay and I know myself better than anyone. I changed for the run, putting on my running shirt and grabbing my hillbilly hat. Then I thought, no, it's time to feel like my old self. I'm going for the Heart Foundation cap. Time to find the old me. I put the Heart Foundation cap on my head and thought I can go one better. I went back in and changed into my Heart Foundation singlet and swapped the cap for my New York Marathon cap from 2013. Now I was ready. The plan was to make sure I beat my previous distance from 2 weeks ago. I was running well when I got stopped by a lady inquiring about the gym. It was around the 10-minute mark. It was around the 10-minute mark and was only for 60 seconds. Not a long time, but in a 20-minute monitor, it's a fair chunk. As I continued on, I considered just running it in from here, so to speak, after falling behind it with the stop. That would be the easy option. Then I considered that the old me would have gone hard to make up for the lost time to still get the goal. It was time to chase. Not only the distance, but the old me. I had to push, and harder than I have of late, and I did push, all the way to the last interval of 15 seconds, and I did it. I beat it by 50 metres. I was jubilant, almost ecstatic. I was proud. It was a big win, just what I needed, and I felt good. I have to remember this feeling. Then that afternoon at the gym, I did a challenge with some clients. The gym challenge is intense. I know what you feel like after doing it. My mind wasn't keen for it either. So a few of the guys have challenged me to it that I had there for the Central School for Sport. But I did it. Again, I knew by doing it, I knew I was taking a positive step to my old self. This is what I needed. My best time is 4:34. I put Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen on loud. 4:29. That gave me to play with. Born to Run, 4:29 that is. That's the length of the song. Barbell bench press first, 20 reps, 43 kilos. Tick. 500 metres rowing. I didn't overexert myself. Usually when doing the challenge, I would row it in around a minute 47. Today I clocked a minute 54. Tick. 20 crunches. Tick. Leg press, 40 reps at 122.5 kilos. I stopped after 10 reps. The mind was fading. I was urged on by one of the guys. Another 15 reps. Brief pause. Then finished it off. Determined. Tick. 1 to go. Barbell shoulder press, 20 reps, 14 kilograms. I could hear Born to Run climaxing. This was going to be close. I had to push. I think I had 6 reps to go when I saw the clock at 4:20. I knew this was a big moment in my battle. I pushed hard, arms screaming, chest burning. I stopped the clock in 4:33, beating my old time by 1 second. Success, a step forward. The body felt terrible, but that was good. That is what I needed. This was normal after the challenge. I had to experience it to teach or reteach myself that this is okay, everything is fine. The run and the challenge, 2 big steps forward, moving in the right direction. To continue the momentum, I revisited the doctor to discuss my test results. A mental health plan suggested I have received a referral to see a psychologist. Hopefully this will help me more. I told the doctor the problem I just have to rewire my brain. So many people have told me through my years of running that I'm going to suffer a heart attack by doing too much. I've never listened. I've never believed them. I know me. I knew my running. I knew about my heart. That first dizzy spell on July the 7th, I remember one of my initial thoughts were, they were all right. And my brain has held on to that thought. Now I need to change it. I need to reverse it. Today's run and the gym challenge is a step towards that. It was a good day. So again, another positive day moving forward. And with that, I start to build a bit of momentum, I guess you could say. I start to consider races in early October, races I'd like to do. And then by mid-October, again, as I say, it goes up and down the journey. And on the 18th of October, it's a challenging day. A tough day today. I started off fine, but pretty much battled anxiety all day. I felt like I've gone back 6 weeks or so. At times, the chest felt tight. But I tell myself that it is from cutting the wattle tree yesterday with the hedge clippers instead of the saw. At the time, I told myself, my chest is going to hurt tomorrow. My head felt funny, what seemed like all day, but it was probably just on and off. I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm trying to work out if it was in my head that it was funny or it was actually my head feeling funny. Where has this come from again? I was fine yesterday morning. The magic mile in my training and the accompanying 5K with it. It is since my head felt funny on Wednesday afternoon at the gym. I realised last night that moment followed spinning around 3 times at kids' class. Then it touched last night after battling some anxiety during the day. When I came off, it felt like my whole heart was vibrating in my chest. When I realised that my leg was doing it too, I stood up. I'd been leaning on a log fence and it all stopped. Also last night in the chapter I'm up to in the rise of the ultra runners, it was talking about whether ultra runners have an increased risk of heart attacks. I guess that has been like putting water on a flower with my anxiety. It grows. I'm really, really tired. When I came home for lunch, I felt like I need to lie down and sleep instead of going for my usual minimum 20-minute run. So this is a good example of just the day in, day out life I've experienced, especially during that 6 months when I was battling it. It was just constantly the battle of the mind games, the thoughts in my head, the chest being tight. Am I having a heart attack? Am I not? The fear of having a heart attack, the fear of dropping dead in front of everyone as well. I've written in that same day, I could feel the anxiety building. I found today that when trying to use some of my tools to deal with it or distract myself, like finding things starting with the alphabet, my inner voice would try to talk over the top, saying things like, it's not working, or this isn't going to work. So it's really tiring, a real burden. I started seeing the psychologist on the 28th of October. That was my first appointment with them. And I think I had either 3 or 4 appointments with the psychologist, and I don't know if I would say they were beneficial or they worked. I came away from the first one feeling that she didn't really get me, get my thoughts. And I remember I wrote here in my journal, it didn't go too bad. There were some things she said I found helpful, others I disagreed with. I don't think she fully gets the running thing or my marathon analogies, can't read my own writing. I get the impression she doesn't fully agree with pushing your body to do a marathon. I feel like she wouldn't agree or enjoy reading the rise of the ultra runners. Did I get anything from the session? Yes. Was it worthwhile? Maybe. She talked to the flight and fight response and how you can be up there and not fully drop down to relaxation, and that new level of relaxation becomes a new normal. It doesn't take much to spike it above the anxious level, and each time the new relaxed level gets further away from normal relaxation. Yeah, I can relate to that. That's me at the moment. She talked of how subconsciously things can set off the anxiety, even when we're not feeling anxious. That was reassuring, as that's me too. She was very dismissive of my fear of a heart attack and dying, which was disappointing, as that is where I feel the anxiety is coming from, the agreement that I made in my head. She said the goal is to get me to a stage of not caring about anxiety. I reckon there's some work to do there. I'm booked in for another appointment next week. And so, as I said, I think I saw her 2 or 3 times and went back the second time, and she seemed to be a bit more understanding of my marathon talk, my running talk. But yeah, I guess it helped, but it was a step, I guess, when I look at it. Wednesday the 30th of October, started the day feeling okay, but then when a split second I felt like I was going lightheaded at the gym in the early morning. I battled anxiety all day. That's what it was like. It would just take a little thing. If it was like, oh, am I going dizzy? Bang, that was it. My anxiety would set in. Am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to collapse from the dizziness? Is it going to hit like it did back in July? I would keep thinking I needed to take a deep breath, and it would take a few attempts to get the deep breath before I was satisfied with it. Despite the battle with anxiety, I still went for my run after the gym morning session. I ran the morning session, ran it hard and well, no problems with anxiety or the chest while running. If I'm not thinking about it or asking myself, how is it? I don't notice it. I've got to win the battle of my mind. And that's key. That is key. Now, there was a quote I heard while I was reading. I had some podcasts I was listening to in regards to anxiety. I can't remember which podcast this is, but I wrote down the quote from it. And it says, you've got to get out of the boxing ring. You are never going to beat uncertainty. You need to make friends with uncertainty and worry. And I'll keep reminding myself of that as I start to feel my head going lightheaded or my chest tight. So get out of the boxing ring. You're never going to beat uncertainty. You need to make friends with uncertainty and worry. Big take-home point there. On the 17th of November, I just want to share quickly before we wrap up this journey, the insight to my life for those 6 months. It was going long again. Again with Craig, to go long, I always had to have someone with me. I had to have a running buddy. I couldn't do it on my own yet. I'm pleased to say these days that's changed. I can go out and run long now. I did 5 hours last weekend all on my own, which after doing the podcast last week was a big achievement, because it was like pulling the band-aids off last week doing the podcast. It relit some of those thoughts, or reignited some of those thoughts that I battled in that 6 month period directly after, that I'd sort of dealt with and started to win. They started to come back last week after talking about it. And it's probably why the hesitation talking about it for so long, in the fear of it coming back. But on the 17th of November, went long with Craig, and we were doing 27 kilometres on our, what we call our famous Castlereagh loop. I've ridden the first half of the run. I could feel my anxiety. I was nervous with what lay ahead. It's nearly 5 months. Nearly 5 months is a long time not to have run 27 kilometres. I haven't even run a half marathon. Sometimes when I move my right arm to point to something or blew my nose, I would get a quick sharp pain through my hand. That didn't help my head. Running through and out of colour, my mindset started to change. My focus was turning to the Castlereagh Highway Hill rising before us. If I could conquer this, it would be a huge step forward, both mentally and physically. Definitely mentally. I zoned it like I used to. My kilometre split remained under sixes for the first part of the hill. My mind started wandering about 200 metres near the top, and I had to tell my doubtful voices to shut up. I crested the top and felt the jubilation of victory, of accomplishment. I felt like jumping and punching the air. With less than 9 kilometres to the finish and the mountains behind us, my confidence grew. I was running on adrenaline. As we turned and head up Boulder Road past Mount Piper Power Station, I passed my next accomplishment. This one was more satisfying and perhaps more important than the hill. 21.1 kilometres, it was a half marathon. This time there was a fist pump, and I shouted in jubilation to Craig. Now I'm pumped, now I'm full of adrenaline. We had been talking of how I was running stronger and feeling better the more distance we covered. I had said it was all adrenaline. For the first time in months, nearly 5 months, I could see me completing a marathon again. I've talked about it, about Sydney, about Orange, Boston, even Comrades. But not until passing that half marathon mark, entering the back half of what could be a marathon, did I actually realise I could actually finish one. My hip flexors started tightening up as we came through Portland, but I was feeling too good within myself to really notice it. We finished the run in 2 hours and 34 minutes, 7 seconds. Boy, I felt good. 27 kilometres completed. The Castlereagh loop done. It's just what my head needed now to build on it both physically and mentally. Thank you to God for helping me get out there. Listening to the songs in worship this morning definitely helped. And for his provision of a loving, supporting, encouraging wife in Monique, a running buddy in Craig. I couldn't have and wouldn't have run that today without him. The advice my brother has given me over the past few months has helped as well. They're all small steps helping achieve one big one. That's where we're going to leave the journey of my anxiety for now. It continues on. We could be here for a week and a half, I reckon, talking about it. But the idea of it is I want to share an insight into me when I started this journey of Mission 231 and the Sonder Monster and running Lara Pinta Trail as I support the Heart Foundation, but I also go from being the overthinker that I've become since the anxiety took hold to becoming an overcomer again. It's all part of the journey. And yeah, there's a lot we can still go through. As I said, it's still happening. The battle's still there, but definitely there are more wins these days than losses, more good days than bad. And the more I run, the better I feel, which is really good as well. But as I mentioned, that last journal entry, that 6 months, I guess the 3 take-homes for me was I couldn't have done it without the support I had, particularly my family, Monique, my wife, her unending support, her love that she showed me, and the shoulder to cry on many a times, my kids, Dalton, Winston and Tabitha, and then Craig getting me out the door, coming out to Portland going, let's go running, Andrew, and getting me got me talking out there. When you run 27 kilometres, 2.5 hours, there's plenty of time to talk, and yeah, those runs with Craig were priceless and a big part in where I got to today since the anxiety. And of course my mate Jake, who called into the gym and said, hey, how about you run with something, make it fun, and invented the Adventures of the Hillbilly Hat. Without that, I wouldn't have got there either. So all part of giving an open, honest insight, because that's what I said I would do when I took on this Mission 231. I want to be open. I want the journey to be honest. I want you to see me, I guess, in my rawest form. And it's been a long podcast today, and I apologise for the time. But I think it's important just to see what I have gone through. I don't do running these days easy like everyone sort of thinks and I guess expects from me with my past accomplishments. But I'm definitely doing it better than I was 12 to 18 months ago. So we'll end it there. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. I hope you found it interesting. I guess the take-home message taking away from being about me is it's important we talk about mental health, not just anxiety, all forms of mental health. And if you're suffering from mental health, please reach out and talk to someone. Hey, if you want to talk to me, please send me a message. I may not be able to give advice or be a great help, but I can listen and maybe perhaps point you in the right direction. But feel free to contact me, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram, or if you've got my mobile number, give me a call. Stop me in the street. But yeah, if you have mental health issues and a battle you're fighting, share it, talk about it. You will definitely feel better for it. And probably another take-home message, which I've learned and I'm still learning, don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself, and definitely acknowledge how far you've come, and celebrate your small wins, because the small wins help you get to the big wins. So yeah, a couple of take-home messages there, everyone. Mission 231, the training is going well. I've had another good week. As I said, 5-hour run last week on my own, which was a big achievement just on its own. Had a fall 90 minutes into that. Hit some mud, and it was like watching a cartoon. My legs went up in the air and I came crashing down on my left side, left shoulder, left hip. I did have fears that I may have broken my arm. It was really sore to run with it swinging. I could walk and no pain, but as soon as I ran it hurt. But it's come up okay. So I finished the run. I was determined to finish the run because there's going to be falls and there's going to be slides on Lara Pinta, and I'm going to get to that finish line and do the best I can in doing that. But yeah, the 5-hour run went really well. Really happy with the fueling, the nutrition, the recovery from it. Followed up this week with a moderate week of training. Nothing more than 2 hours this week, but running most days. But it's all going well. And we'll do on Sunday, the day this podcast drops, will be an hour 45 run to top off the week. Everyone, thank you for your support, both personally in my own mental health journey. Lots of best wishes and really nice messages coming through since last week's podcast. Appreciate that. But more important still, thank you for your support of Mission 231 and the Heart Foundation. It's all about battling Australia's #1 killer disease, heart disease, and together we're going to make a difference. Run with heart, everyone.